Mark McSherry, Senator, 10 minutes.
Thanks, Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Fingleton, and thanks very much for the time. This question may have been somewhat covered already by some colleagues, but during the period 2003-2006, with commercial lending being the driver for the reasons that you outlined earlier on, the Society trebled its book from about $3.5 billion to just under $11 billion. Considering the risk assessment capabilities of the Society at that time, and indeed the management of information, the MIS systems that were available to the Society at that time, was that growth prudent or sustainable in your view?
It certainly was within the parameters of the policy, the lending policy of the Society, and our capacity to deal with it. Because there was, as pointed out by the Deputy here, there was a higher concentration in relation to customers than would probably normally be the case. Although from the evidence produced to this committee from other institutions, it appears we weren't alone in the high concentration with particular individual borrowers. So it's been our capacity in volume terms, in number terms, to deal with all those.
So you're happy that you did have the capacity, it was prudent at the time?
Our IT system was adequate for the needs. As I said, we were in a simple business, just money in and money out, fixed on a property, secured on an asset. And also, Senator, the growth reflected that our book was being turned over and redeemed every 3 years.
Did the demutualisation...
Which was unique in relation to any institution, and therefore our risk and exposure was limited.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry,
yeah, okay. Around the same time in the early 90s, Irish Permanent, then Building Society, demutualised and made changes and so on, and they had very much laid the foundations for their ultimate flotation. Did this add pressures to your own outlook from a corporate perspective to say, look, this is where the Society needs to go, or should or ought to be going?
Well, as I said in my statement, Senator, that my opinion was at the time that I formed, and the advice the board had and the advice I gave the board, was that all societies had no future as independent, standalone institutions. And that was all societies, not just nationwide. But in particular us, because of our size and our lack of critical mass, it would be not feasible for us to go the incorporation route, the PLC route, and go public. We just wouldn't get the support for it. And that was the advice we got independently, as well as my own feelings on the matter.
So the core business of home loans, is it fair to say or not that there was an abandonment of core business in favour of growth using the commercial market that was out there, as you said, because of a deficit in the 1980s for housing?
Not a hope. We tried, we made every effort to expand our home loan book. And as you may be aware, and as I've already mentioned it in my statement, when Bank of Scotland came into the market in 1999, all things changed in that market irrevocably. They undercut everybody, competition intensified, and our book was attacked, and we effectively couldn't compete because, principally, we refused to adopt as a policy 100% loans. We refused to adopt as a policy tracker mortgages. We refused self-certification. We refused to lend at uneconomic rates such as 1%. Nobody could lend risk or apply risk at that level. And that is why we failed to grow our book in the analysis. We were evaluating the risk compared to what the market was dictating. And we weren't in the market share. We hadn't the capacity And you also had the brokers who controlled 50% eventually of the market, and they were aligned almost totally to the bigger institutions, and they all fought for their market share, and we were left behind.
Did,
As simple as that.
when
And we also, as I just it came up in the remuneration, somebody asked me about remuneration, about promoting lending through incentives and bonuses and all the rest of it. The only element of our lending that was incentivized was the promotion of our home loans, and we set targets for managers and incentivized them by bonuses to achieve volume.
would have had commercial loan targets as well?
No, we didn't utilise our branches for commercials. There was only, I think, one or two branches that would deal with that commercials, and source commercials for us.
Okay, so
except in maybe a small ticket like the pub or shop or whatever it is, farmer.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
You mentioned Bank of Scotland coming in. When they did, and you said your book was attacked and they were very much pursuing your business, did that lead to a looser underwriting strategy
Absolutely.
or policy in the society?
No, that's why we didn't make progress. That's why we didn't make progress. We had a very, as I pointed out, what we didn't engage in, and which caused problems for other institutions following the crash. We all know about the tracker mortgages. We didn't do any of those. So that wasn't implying, Senator, a loosening of requirements. In fact, we increased them. And at the end of 2006, only 17%, this sticks in my mind, of our home loans was in excess of 90%, when 92% was the norm. And that's our hope.
Some months ago, at this stage, we had the various auditing firms in as witnesses, and when questioning, I had asked them all, in fact, had they ever had a company firm that they were auditing asked them to remove an auditor or a person from the audit team for overzealous or invasiveness or and so on. And one particular firm admitted that happened on 3 occasions, and in one instance it was a financial institution. Can you tell the Committee of Inquiry, did Irish Nationwide ever request the removal of the member of an audit team from their auditors?
Not to my knowledge.
So not to your answer, therefore you know nothing.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. In terms of the top 25 exposures, were there any employees who had a stake in those self-same top 25 investments?
Sorry again?
In terms of the top 25 borrowers, were there ever any employees or board members or yourself or whoever party to those 25 exposures? The top 25. Okay. How many of your own clients who the society would have lent to did you, in any other capacity, go into business with?
Yeah, I had a relationship with one. That's all.
Okay. Was that a politician?
Outside of the society.
Okay. Was that a politician?
Yes.
Would you like to tell the committee who it is?
No, I don't want to discuss it.
That's fine. When you ever invested yourself in anything, did you ever borrow from the society yourself?
Yeah, I had some buy-to-let properties over the years, but I will say, Senator, that I always had a deposit account in the society that was at least as much as the exposure on the loans, and sometimes double.
Understood. Can I ask, in the event of you wishing to borrow on that, what way would it have been managed in terms of credit committees and underwriting?
An intervention centre, like if The witness is free to answer if he wishes, but if there are nature of financial confidentiality, you can be more discretionary in your responses, Mr. Fingleton, if you so wish.
Thank you, Chairman. It will go through the normal process and be approved by the board, and I would get no concessions.
Okay. Would you step out?
Oh, I wasn't involved. I wasn't involved at all. To be done the normal way, on the normal terms. That's it, no concessions.
Throughout your period of
Senator.
tenure, your relationship to government, was the Minister for Finance of the day accessible to you as the head of a mutual, or was there contact there? And in particular, you had mentioned about appropriate representations being made to government at the time to amend the Section 102 of the Building Societies Act of '89. What shape did that take? I mean, did you contact ministers directly? Did a PR firm do it on your behalf?
In the 90s, I contacted the Shadow Minister for Finance in relation to getting a change in the legislation. At that time, I was seeking a change in the Central Bank Act because, as I said earlier, the Central Bank had the powers themselves to effect a change to allow us to effect a trade sale. They didn't need the government to bring in new legislation to do so. And there was a Central Bank Act going through in 1995, I think. And the opposition, I think the minister put in a proposal to change the legislation, and it was defeated by the government on the day.
Just very last question. In your tenure, did the society lend to mezzanine or shelf companies abroad for the purposes of buying property here?
No.
That's all.